All right, well, hello everybody. Thank you all for being here. My name is Natalie Hardy. I'm one of 3 IRB analysts here at Research Support Services. We are all so excited for our upcoming move from InfoEd to iRIS, which is a cloud-based system that enables online application submission and real-time submission tracking, and also functions as a document repository, providing our users with easy access to submission records and all study documents. Our new platform has so many amazing new features and is known to the research community for being intuitive and very user-friendly. However, we know that platform changes can be overwhelming and feel daunting, so I'm here today to make sure that everyone is prepared to move over to iRIS as seamlessly as possible. So my main goals for today are to familiarize you all with the platform, point out some new and improved features, and reiterate the important upcoming dates, including the last day of submission in InfoEd, our conversion period, and our iRIS Go live date. So we don't want this to be a stressful move. We want this to be more of a guided process through which we can ensure you feel comfortable and confident when submitting your first study through iRIS. So we want you to walk away from this webinar with a better understanding of iRIS operations and important dates relating to the platform rollout for IRB users. So our agenda for today is as follows. First, I'll give an overview of the new platform, give you a little introductory session, show you how to log in and what the homepage looks like. Then we'll go through our new and improved application and submission process from start to finish. And finally, we will respond to stipulations from the IRB, and we will submit a form against one of our studies. So we're going to be submitting an amendment together. And then at the end, we will have a Q&A session, and I kindly ask that you hold your questions until we get to that point. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to our system. Okay. All right, so this is what our new login page looks like. When you log into iRIS for the first time, you will use your SDSU single sign-on credentials, so essentially your email address, your sdsu.edu email. For those of you who may have people who are going to be working on your study who do not have an SDSU email address, you can have them request an account through here. But we strongly encourage everybody who has an SDSU email to log into the iRIS system for the first time using those credentials. Any people who already have studies, so our PIs who have studies submitted through InfoEd, we have been migrating all of your InfoEd studies into iRIS for you. So when you log into iRIS for the first time, all of your studies are going to be in there. Please make sure that all of your study documents are the most up-to-date studies when you log in for the first time. So we encourage you to go ahead and log in and poke around the new system. For the sake of this webinar today, I will be working in our test environment. So I'm going to switch over to that page. Oh. Okay, so when you log in for the first time, you're going to see the Study Assistant tutorial list pop up. So this is a super handy list of tutorials. You'll see that the first one is an overview of the system. Second is how to start a new application, where to find latest approved versions of your protocol documents, approval letters, how to start a new submission form, etc. So again, this will pop up when you log in for the first time. Once you start getting the hang of things and you no longer need to use the tutorials, you can go ahead and uncheck this box down here, and it will no longer pop up when you log in. You can always find it up here on the top right-hand side of the screen by clicking Tutorial List, and it will pop right back up, and you can go ahead and click on any of these again. Also on the top right-hand of the screen is a Help button. So this button will direct you to a variety of resources. For those of you who maybe submit studies to IBC, the ICOOC, and the IRB, one of the greatest things about iRIS is that all 3 institutional committees are now housed on one platform. So when you go and you click on this Help button over here, you will get to see resources for IBC, for ICOOC, and IRB, all located in the same area. Over here on the right-hand side, we have some general iRIS resources. So for example, the iRIS Handbook, which walks you through iRIS operations. We also have our iRIS Help page, which brings you to our website and shows you how to access and use iRIS if you are a first-time user. I will point out that it says iMedris right here. So iMedris is essentially the parent company. The iRIS system was created by iMedris, and you may see that used a couple times. They're just interchangeable terms. But I want to point that out to avoid any confusion. So again, top right-hand side is a great place to go if you find you're getting stuck, or if you have a graduate student who's submitting a protocol for the first time, they have some questions you're unable to answer, direct them to the top right-hand side of the screen. So over here on the far right-hand side, before I scroll down and show you the rest of the study system work page, I'm going to point out this feature called My Account. And I'm actually going to switch over to my personal account in the production area because, like I mentioned, this is a test environment, so this is a made-up person. His name is John Smith. So I want to show you what my personal account looks like because, so when I go ahead and log in, I'm going to go over to my profile and over to my account. When you open this up, you will get to see the basic information that has been entered, on your behalf, so your first and last name. You'll also see your SDSU email address. Right here is a new feature. You're able to add a new email address. So say you don't want any iRIS system notifications to be sent to your SDSU email. You can actually add a personal email address or another email address and direct all of those system notifications to that email. So this is just a handy thing if you would rather have those system notifications go to another email. So what I wanted to point out over here that I know everybody's going to love is the fact that your city training certificates are going to be directly associated with your iRIS account, given that you registered with City using your sdsu.edu email credentials. So over here on the far left-hand side, I'm able to click on my own training history. And what that will show me is the City training courses that I have completed, when they were completed, and when they're going to expire. So like I mentioned, if you register for City using your sdsu.edu email address, it will automatically associate those City training documents with your account. If you have not registered for City with your sdsu.edu email address, you can also put your City user ID in this area, and that will make those City documents populate automatically into this profile. So that's one of our new favorite things that we know everyone is going to love. You will no longer need to download the City training documents as PDFs and upload them into your submission. They'll be automatically associated with your profile and with the profiles of all your study personnel. So I'm going to go ahead and bring us back to the home screen. There's a couple ways that I can do this. I can hit the back button that will function to bring me to the previous page, or I can go up here to the top left-hand side and click the SDSU button. This will bring me to the home page. So I'm going to switch back to the test environment, and now I'm going to show you the entire front page of the login area. So over here we have our featured study operations. These are pretty straightforward. It shows you how to create a new study, how to start a submission form for new studies, view current approvals, etc. So this is a great place to go if you want to quickly create something new. Down here, you'll see we have some panels. There are going to be 4 panels, so I'll scroll down real quick and show you all of them, and then we'll take them down one by one. So up here, we have our study assistant area. This is how you would find a study. So when I go ahead and click on this, it's just a search engine, essentially. You're able to search for studies based on their alias, so a shortened name of your study, their sponsor, the PI of the study, department. For IRB studies that have an expiration date, say you've submitted a few studies and you know that some might be expiring in the next year, you can search between a range of dates and see if you have any studies that are coming up or expiration dates that are coming up with any of your studies. If you have studies that are submitted to the ICOOC or IBC, you can search for just those if you want. And over here we have some advanced find options. If you have quite a few studies, you can search by the drugs associated with the study, devices, etc. So this is a great place to go to search for all of your studies. So bringing us back to the home page, I'm actually going to scroll down past the all tasks area because I think it makes sense to show you where your studies are before I bring you to the tasks area. So we will come back to this. Now, as I scroll down to the second panel, this is called the study submission status in progress area. So here's where you're going to find all the studies that you have submitted to the IRB and that have been returned to you with corrections from the IRB or from an analyst. So as you'll see down here, we're going to focus on my pigs in a blanket study first. So over here is the reference number. We've got the form name. This is called the initial review submission packet. This is a new term that we're going to be using moving forward. Essentially, it just means it contains your initial application and all your supporting documents. You got the study title, the form author, and you have the date that it was submitted. So over here on the far right-hand side, we have an actions column. When I go ahead and click this steps button, it will expand to give me more details about the submission and its status. So right here, we have what I like to refer to as a sort of life cycle of a study. So you'll see that my Pigs in a Blanket study is currently in pre-review status. So what that means is that I've finished it, I've attached all my supporting documents, I've signed off as a PI, and I've sent it off to the IRB to be reviewed. It has not yet been assigned to an analyst, and the way that you're able to tell that is A, it's in pre-review status, and B, there's a way to retract your submission. So what this means is essentially if you forgot to add a consent form and you need to change something in your application, but you've already submitted it, you can retract your submission and make those changes yourself when your study is in the pre-review status. So previously, as many of you know, when you submitted a study in InfoEd, you would need to email an analyst or email Justin and ask us to return it to you so you can make changes. You will no longer need to do that. You can make your changes yourself by retracting the submission and pulling it back to you. So the second study I'm going to show you in this area is my Effects of Eating Chocolate Everyday study. So you'll see that this one is a little different than my Pigs in a Blanket study. There are some incomplete tasks, so I'm going to go ahead and open up my steps to see what those are. When I click on this, I'll see that my study is no longer in pre-review. It has now gone to the changes requested status. So when I go down here to the task status, I'm able to see what happened during pre-submission. So that's when I was creating my study and signing off as principal investigator. Over here, you can see the timestamps of when those tasks were completed by me, John Smith. And then right here, I'm going to point this out because, again, this is a test environment and this is a made-up person. So, of course, John Smith is not up to date with his city training records because he does not exist. But you will get this message if any of the key study personnel you've listed on your study are not up to date with your training records, and you'll be able to open up and see those people who are not up to date. So down here, you'll see this IRB task status. When you open this up, you're able to see quite a few things. So again, this is in changes requested. That means the IRB has reviewed it or assigned an analyst, and the analyst has sent modifications required back to you. So you're able to scroll down here and see timestamps of when the IRB received the submission, when someone was assigned as the analyst, and when the IRB returned the submission for corrections. So this is a really great way for you to be able to see the timestamps of all these things that have been happening. If you are wondering where your study is, previously in InfoEd, you weren't really able to see when somebody reviewed it or you could see when modifications were sent back to you, but not as detailed as now iRIS is able to show you. So you see these timestamps, this was received and returned to you all within 7 minutes, which is very quick and probably won't happen in real life. But also over here, once you get this changes requested status notification, you're able to open this up and go directly to complete the correction here. And right over here, you're able to view the outcome letter that was sent to you with those changes detailed. So previously in InfoEd, we would send you modifications required letters via email. You'd also be able to see them in InfoEd, but you'd get them straight to your email. We're going to continue to do that, and you'll receive these outcome letters in your email inbox, but you'll also receive them in iRIS, and they'll be associated with each of your studies. So I'm able to click here and open up my modifications required letter. I'll see when it was sent, to whom it was sent, and over here on the far left, I can click and open up the letter. It will become a pop-up window, so I'm going to bring it down to a tab to show you all. So it looks very similar to our letters that we've been sending via InfoEd. Down here, you'll see the modifications that have been requested of me. Great. So that is one place that you can find them. So I'm going to close this up, and now I'm going to bring us down to this area. So this is your all studies area. These are all your studies that you've submitted to the IRB, IBC, IACUC, and one of my favorite parts about this area that is new to us is the fact that things are now color-coded, which I really like personally. I think all of you will like it as well. You get to see the green means, exempt, approved, green is good. But it's a really great way to just at a glance see what you've got going on with all of your studies. So over here on the far right-hand side, you'll see that we have a variety of actions that we can take with each of our studies that are listed. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the applications folder for my exempt biomedical study. So when I open this up, it's going to take me to an area, to the study application area. And you'll notice that when I clicked on it, it said applications. So that's plural. So what this will do is it will show you all versions of your application that have been either created or edited. So right over here, you'll see that this is my IRB initial application and the version is 1.1. So that implies that there was a version 1.0, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to the far left-hand side and click on this little folder icon. When I click on this, I can see all previous versions of the application that have been edited. I can see who it was created by, when it was created, and who it was last modified by. So if you have multiple people working on a study and somebody makes an edit, you are able to go in and see who made that edit and when that edit was made. And then one other thing that you can do here is you can compare applications. So by clicking on both of these on the far left-hand side, I can go over here and hit compare to selected versions. And I will get a pop-up window that will show me all of the things that were changed from version 1.0 to version 1.1. So you'll see that I added something very eloquent in this area, and that's that. So look out for these version numbers, version 1.0, version 1.1. As you move forward, you'll get more version numbers, and you'll be able to see all of them in this area, the applications area. So back to the home screen, we're going to go ahead and open up the documents area of my study called Expedited Study. So the documents area will bring you to your document library. This is where you're going to find your study documents, such as your consent forms, your surveys, and any approved documents. So when I click on this, I'm brought to the study documents area of this study. You'll see down here the reference number of the study, the category of the document, and the document outcome. So you'll see that my flyer has been approved on July 24th. And over here, I'm able to access that stamped file immediately. So instead of combing through your email inbox or diving into info trying to find your approved documents, you can just go straight to the documents associated with your studies in the All Studies area and find all of your approved documents there. So it's much quicker. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the Forms button. And I think I mentioned this before, but there are going to be a lot of different ways to get to the same area in iRIS, which we really like because it's kind of customizable. You'll be able to figure out what works best for you. So at the beginning of the presentation, I mentioned that we would be submitting an amendment against one of our studies, which we will do towards the end. But these are two ways that we can do it. We can click on Forms right here, and we can start a new submission. So you'll see all the forms that are associated with these kinds of human subjects research studies. We got amendment forms, continuing review, personnel change, reportable event. We can start a new amendment form here, or we can scroll back up to the top, as you'll recall, the featured study operations, and we can hit start a submission form for one of our studies, and you'll get a very similar panel to the All Studies tab that we're currently working on. And you can just do the exact same thing here. So it's really up to you how you want to access a variety of areas in iRIS. That's why I said it's very customizable. So a couple other functions that I'll point out. We have a withdraw function. So you're able to withdraw studies that have either been returned for corrections or that are still pending, so submitted for initial review. As you'll recall, these two studies are also located up here in the in progress area. So when you withdraw a study, that means it's withdrawn from review, and you want to be really sure about this decision. So when you click withdraw, you'll get a verification message. You'll be cautioned that the operation is not reversible, will result in the study status to withdrawn, and it will remove the submissions from the boards that have reviewed it. So we will no longer be able to see the study. It will be effectively withdrawn, and that is an action that you are able to take if you so please. Next, we have our copy feature, which is new. So for those of you who do multiple studies that are very similar, the copy function is a great way to copy your entire study, the application, supporting documents, everything, instead of having to copy and paste through an entire application. Nobody wants to do that. So we now have this copy function available to those of you who may use it. And then lastly, I'd like to show you the correspondence area. So like I mentioned, up here is a good way to find outcome letters, You'll see outcome letters here, outcome letters down here for your studies that are in progress. And you're also able to find them over here in the correspondence area. So you'll see that this was a study that has been given an exempt determination. So down here, I'm able to see when the changes were requested, when I got the official modifications required letter from an analyst, and when I received an exempt determination. Over here, I'm actually go to a different study to show you a correspondence feature within your study team. Actually, what is the study I want to be on? So a new feature that we have is being able to add correspondence within a certain study to the people who are listed on the study. So if you wanted to send a message to your key study personnel, you are able to do that in each study that you have by clicking over here on recipients. And you'll see that I'm listed as a PI, but I've got a couple other people on the study. So if I wanted to keep communications to my key study personnel in one place associated with one study, all messages that I send in this area will be recorded in this area. So you can see all study correspondence that has been sent to your study team just by clicking on this area. So that's a new feature that InfoEd did not have. Okay, so now that we've covered our All Studies tab area, I'm going to bring us right back up to the All Tasks area. Like I said, we were going to return to this area. You'll see here that I have one task, and it is a submission correction. We can assume that it is the same submission correction that has been requested of me down here. But what's great about these tasks is that it's a one-click navigation system. So you'll see that I have a submission correction. The description of this is the IRB return the submission for corrections. So I can just go ahead and click on this, and it will bring me directly to the pre-review correction form where I can address all stipulations that have been sent to me by the IRB. Again, we'll come back to this towards the end of the presentation. I don't want to overwhelm everybody with all this information, but the task area is a great way to just get right to it. Another feature of the task area is the priority levels that you are able to set yourself. So say you have a study coordinator who is working on your studies for you, and you have multiple submission corrections listed, and you want to be able to communicate to them which ones need to be completed first, which ones are lower priority. You're able to designate those over here, and you can select a complete by date to communicate to your study team, or to just set it for yourself if you have a lot of tasks that you need to complete. Once you set a task as high priority, it will automatically populate over here in the top right-hand corner in your by the numbers box. So this is very straightforward. The by the numbers shows you how many submissions you have in process, how many forms you have pending submission, anything that's pending your response, and any high priority tasks or annual review tasks that you may have. So like I just said, I set the high priority myself down here. Once I change this back to low or medium, it will be removed from this area. Okay, so now that we've covered the entire front page of iRIS and we've gone through all the functions of each of these tabs, I'm going to go ahead and go up to Featured Study Operations, and I'm going to create a new study, and we'll walk through that together. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and select IRB Initial Application. Like I mentioned, you're able to create a biological use authorization application or IACUC application all in the same place. We love it. Okay, so here's the first section of our application. I'm going to go ahead and enter the full title of my study, which is going to be Test Study, and the date of today. Down here, I'm not sure if you remember when I mentioned a study alias. You're able to search for studies using their study alias. This is just an abbreviated version of your study title. You are able to do that if it's something that's important to you or something that would maybe make it easier for you to at a glance find your studies. You can also just enter the full title of your study if you're not interested in doing that. It's really just for you, for internal record keeping purposes. So now here is where you list any departments that are associated with the study. I'm going to add my alma mater right here, my sociology department. And if I were working with, say, a faculty member from a different department like aerospace engineering, I would be able to add them as well. But because I'm the PI of the study, I'm going to indicate that sociology is the primary department. And then I'm going to hit Save and Continue to the next section. So before we get into assigning key study personnel access to the study, I want to point out these save features that I've been using. So you're able to save certain sections and come back to them if you start an application and you don't have time to finish it. Be sure to save each section as you move forward, and then you can come back to it later to complete it at another time. Something that's also new is the fact that we have now section views of the application. So say I wanted to add another department, I forgot to add someone, I can just click on this area. Oh, no, I can't because I have not filled out this area yet. So I'll do that, and then I'll show you how to move through the sections that we've already been through. So I'm going to go ahead and add myself as the PI of the study real quick. You'll see up here that under the Setup Study Personnel area, I'm able to search by last name or first name. And you'll see that there are two databases here. We have our iRIS database and our LDAP directory. If you search for someone in the iRIS database and you're unable to find them, please try looking in the LDAP directory first. They might be there. That's where sdsu.edu email addresses come from. So I'm going to add myself here as PI. And once I do that, I'm asked if I would like to be included as a contact. So contacts receive all communications relating to the study. And then I'm going to hit close setup of study personnel. And over here, you'll also be able to see the training records of each of the key study personnel that you add. Obviously, I have nothing because this is a fake profile. But this is really handy to be able to see who has completed what. And when I hit save and continue next section. So, okay, now I'm going to hit no here. I'm going to hit save section. And I'm just going to show you how you can move backwards into various sections if you want to make any edits. You can also see the entire view of the application. If you're not really sure where maybe a question was, you don't remember what section it was, you can open up an entire view of the application and just scroll and see everything. Okay, so I'm going to go back down to this section. I do not have a reliance agreement, so I'm going to hit save and move forward. My study is not funded, but if it was, then once I hit yes, then additional questions will pop up. This is a smart form with logic-based questions, so there will be questions that you'll answer no or yes to, and you may or may not see subsequent questions. Okay, so here's our classic human subjects research questionnaire. What's a little different about this part compared to InfoEd is that we have actually inserted quite a few definitions and a few resources as well. So as you're scrolling through the application and maybe you're not sure what something means, or maybe your graduate student is feeling a little stuck, encourage them to keep their eye out for the colored text. So for example, when I go over here to generalizable knowledge and hover over the phrase, the definition will pop up. Same with interaction, intervention, and you'll see definitions like this throughout the application. You'll also see question marks on the far right-hand side that are associated with each of these sections. So this one asks, or tells me what are common examples of projects that don't fall under IRB review. So keep your eyes out for those. They are just great resources and further education for those who are completing human subjects research applications. So we're going to say yes to all of these. Okay, so here's our identifiers table. This is very similar to our previous application. I'm going to add names. I'm going to indicate that I'm accessing and recording them. And I'm going to add email addresses. So something I'll point out now is that if I try to hit save and continue next section and I have not filled out, sorry, somebody's calling me. Let me just hang up on them. And I have not filled out a certain section of the application, it will not allow me to move forward unless I make a selection in the section that I'm on. So this is something new. Often we've seen applications in InfoEd that certain sections weren't filled out, but it didn't have a stopping point. So this will help us keep everybody on track and show you what you need to fill out as you move forward. Okay, so this is a new section. It is the review type. So this is kind of an effort, our effort to educate people about how we review human subjects research studies. If you're not sure what this means, not to worry. Again, we have this information over here, far right-hand side. Keep your eyes out for these question marks. So this will explain what the different levels of review are conducted by the IRB. When I click on these areas, they emerge as pop-up windows. I'm going to bring this down to show you. So again, this is in an effort to provide a little bit more education and give people some context as to how the analysts review each of the human subjects research applications that come through. So I'm going to go ahead and hit exempt. If I were to hit expedited or full board, additional sections would populate. As I mentioned, this is a smart form, so you may or may not see certain sections depending on what you answer. Okay, so under investigators experience, you'll see that this is a little bit different to, I'm sorry, I'm getting a lot of calls from one person. I hope this isn't affecting my audio, but if it is, please let me know. So here you are able to list the investigator's experience of the key study personnel as it pertains to this research. So what's a little bit different this time around is the fact that we no longer will ask you to list the experience of the students on the protocol. So whether it be undergraduate students or graduate students, we now only ask for the experience of the PI, co-PI, co-investigator, faculty advisor, and any translators or interpreters that you may be using to translate documents. So our translation informed consent policy went into effect in January. And so it'll ask you up here if documents will be translated or interpreted into a foreign language, that you'll need to name the person or the service that you'll be using and describe their experience. Let's see, test, forward. Do not have a conflict of interest. Okay, so the background and significance sections are the first rich text format boxes that you are able to use to your heart's content. And so what I mean by that is that there is now no text limit. That used to be a problem with our info application. A lot of times we had people upload supporting documents, expanding upon their background and significance or their methods sections. Now you're able to type as much as you want. You can also change your font. You can change the font size, make it look however you'd like. You're also able to insert hyperlinks and photos, images. So if you find that you have a diagram that may explain what you're trying to tell us in a better way than having to describe it via text, you can insert an image there. So we're hoping that people will be creative with this and use it however they see fit. So I'm going to move forward through this. So the research design and methods section has been condensed a little bit. Here's just the purpose objective of the research. I don't really like this font, so I'm going to move it back to this one, a little bit bigger. And so we have combined our study abstract from the previous application and the research designs and methods section into one, so you will no longer need to feel like you're repeating yourself, especially with the risk management sections. I know we had 2 of those sections on our old application, and I know that some people weren't a fan of being so repetitive, which I totally understand. So now it's been condensed. Down here, we have a few more definitions. Like I said, keep your eyes out for these. If you're not sure, what risks may be present other than loss of privacy, you can check these out. And scrolling down, we are down to the measures area. So this is very similar to the application info ed. We just ask you to list all the measures that will be used in your study, indicate whether it's validated or published. So something that's new here is that we now prompt you to upload these measures when you get to the end of the application. Previously, sometimes we had people who said they were going to be using a survey, but then they wouldn't upload the survey. So we'd have to say, hey, can you upload the survey? And then they would send it back to us, and then we review it. So this is an effort to hopefully stop those communications. So right here, you'll see this message to upload those at the end of the application. And when I hit save and continue, I'm taken to the study population area. So this is a little bit different than our info application. Down here, you'll see that there's a variety of designations I can pick from for my adult population. So I'm going to be recruiting 50 adults, and because they are not members of any of these listed vulnerable populations, I'm going to select general participant. And it instructs you to do that up here. Down here, I'm going to be recruiting 25 children, and I'm going to indicate that they are general participants as well. And when I get to section 12.4, I see that this has 0, but I just entered 50 and 25. So what you'll need to do when you hover over this total button, it'll tell you to save the section in order to calculate your participant total. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to hit save. And now my participant total has been calculated for me. Now down here for our inclusion and exclusion criteria, this is a little bit different. When you click on add new inclusion criteria, it will open up a rich text format box. So you can either list your inclusion criteria in paragraph format, Or if you want to do them by line items, you can do that as well. It's really up to you what works best for you. Okay, so in the participants recruitment and screening area, I'm going to say I'm going to recruit by email. Down here is another prompt message that asks you to upload copies of any recruitment language. I'm going to screen people online. Here's where you select the level of risk you believe to be posed to your participants. Over here are some more definitions about minimal risk and greater than minimal risk. I'm going to hit minimal and move forward. Okay, so our informed consent section is a little bit better than our previous application because now we link directly out to our informed consent templates. So when I click on this link, it will bring me to our Google Drive where you can find all of our informed consent templates. A lot of times I've had to send people back modifications required letters and I link out to the consent forms, but now they're here in the application for you to click on. We also have some more information over here about waivers of documentation, alterations of informed consent, purpose of giving broad consent. So this is all information that us analysts get a lot of questions about. And so we decided that compiling this information in this area would likely be helpful for a lot of people. Often we get people who will request a waiver of documentation simply because they don't want to request a signature from their participants. But there's actually criteria under which we can approve these waivers. So we've added those criteria here so that you are able to select those and explain to us why you're selecting it and how your study qualifies for one of these, for a waiver of documentation. So these are a few things that we've added, to provide some more information and to help educate people who do human subjects research. I'm going to hit comprehensive written, and my forms will not be translated into a foreign language, but if you are going to be doing that or using a translation service, you'd hit yes, and you would need to answer quite a few questions about the language that you're going to be translating into, and you would need to attest that there would not be any deviation from our translation of informed consent policy, which if you're unfamiliar with that, you can click on it and it will pop up right here as a pop-up window. So we've just linked out a lot of helpful links and resources in this application as opposed to our last one. And here is where I'd answer how to obtain consent for minors. This is not applicable. And we're going to go ahead and move forward. So this is all pretty straightforward. Something that's different about the research setting is that we ask you now to include online or virtual settings. So we get a lot of people who do interviews over Zoom. So we ask that they just indicate that here. I'm not going to be traveling to or conducting research in other countries, so I'm going to hit no. Under payments and incentives to participants, something we have added is more information about drawings and lotteries. So we get some PIs who want to do a drawing or a lottery with their study, but there's actually the California code about lotteries is very detailed and a little bit strict. So over here on the far right-hand side, you are able to access more resources about this, and it will bring you to the California code relating to lotteries. And will ask you to describe how you're going to be conducting that lottery in relation to that code. So again, just providing more resources. I'm going to say no, that I won't be providing payment, and move forward. The data management section is virtually identical to the one in InfoEd, so I'm just going to move forward through it. Okay, so now I have transitioned to the initial review submission packet because I've completed the application in its entirety. So once I hit OK, remember this term that I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation? So your initial review submission packet is now built. So what you're going to do is move forward through it, and you're going to add all your documents that you need. So section 2.0 brings you back to the application that we just finished. So if you get to this point and you need to make some edits, you're able to go back in, click Edit View, and it will bring you back to the application. Now, something I want to point out here is that when I scroll, I can't scroll down here. If I go to the very last section of the application, I can't scroll down here. So instead of moving forward, I want you to keep in mind the back button that I brought up at the beginning of the presentation. The back button is your friend. It will just function to bring you back to where you were, so don't be afraid of it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit back, and it's going to just bring me back to where I was in my initial review submission packet. And I'm going to hit save and continue to the next section. Okay, so here I'm going to add my consent forms. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that from my desktop. category is exempt expedited, and I'm going to hit save. Now my consent form has been attached. I'm able to open it up and view it to make sure it's the right document. And hit save and continue. So section 4.0 asks you to attach all other study documents. So if you're multi-site, you can attach approval letter from the reviewing central IRB. Here you attach copies of recruitment language, measures you'll use in your study, and other applicable documentation. So I'm going to add my flyer here. Indicate that it's a flyer and hit save. And for my measures, I have a couple surveys. So instead of adding them one by one, I'm going to hit add multiple documents. And here I'm able to just pull them this way and add just multiple documents at once. I'm going to go ahead and title them Survey 1 and Survey 2. So you'll notice over here that I'm able to select the category under which this document will fall. And here there is a red asterisk, so that denotes a required field. So I have to create the version number for each of my documents that I submit this way. So like I mentioned earlier, the very first version of your initial application and your initial review submission packet will be version 1.0. So I'm going to make this survey also version 1.0 so that if I edit it in the future, it will automatically update to version 1.1, just like my application and my entire packet. Okay, so now that I've uploaded all of my documents that I need, I'm going to hit save and continue again. This section, some additional training groups might appear that are not applicable to your protocol. So if you have city training via IACUC or IBC or other sorts of training, it may pop up here if you are somebody who uses those applications and those committees. Okay, so now my form has been completed. I'm going to hit sign off and submit. And this will take me to the sign-off screen where I will apply my signature as the PI of the study. Now, before I do that, I wanted to point out a new feature. And for those of you who like to have all of your study documents in one place, you are now able to create a PDF packet with any or all of your study documents that are associated with this initial review submission packet. So you can do that by selecting, say I want to include my application and my consent forms, but not my flyer. I can just select them over here and hit create PDF packet, and a PDF packet will be generated of my entire application and my consent form. If I wanted to create an entire PDF packet with everything, I could either select each of these one by one, or I could go up here to this little icon with a little check mark in it, and I could click it, and they'll all be selected. So this can be really handy if you want to keep all of your study documents in one place, in one PDF. It's a really great way to do it. So down here, I'm going to hit approve before I hit save sign off. And for those of you who are faculty advisors and have graduate students, or if you are a graduate student, when you get to this point, your application or your initial review submission packet will be sent off to your faculty advisor to approve, just as it was in InfoEd. So your faculty advisor will still need to sign off. But John Smith is not a graduate student, so we're going to go ahead and hit approve and hit save sign off. Now my submission has been sent to the IRB and it has been populated automatically in the study submission status area. It is now an in-progress study. So I'm able to see that my study is in pre-review status. Again, I can retract it because it has not yet been assigned to an analyst or been reviewed by the IRB. I can view the details of my submission here. So if I forgot to download my PDF packet, I could go and do that here in the study submission area. So each time you submit a study, it will automatically populate in this area. Okay, so the last things that we are going to do together is we're going to respond to some stipulations from the IRB because, like I mentioned, it's a totally different process and way easier to do an iRIS as opposed to InfoEd. And then to end, we will create an amendment form for one of our already approved studies. So I'm going to show you how I would like to access these submission corrections. So we're going to go to the all tasks area. As you'll recall, clicking right here will take us directly to the stipulations that we have been asked to make for our study. So right here, this is our pre-review correction form. You'll see that the version number is 1.0. You'll see all the components of the study. So this is a study that was created yesterday. This is not the study that we just created together. So you'll be able to see that I have my initial review submission packet, my application, consent form, and a survey. So as I scroll down, I'm able to see the first stipulation that has been sent to me. So again, these will be sent to you in a modifications required letter. It'll go to your email and it will be associated with your study. And the way that you access those modifications is through the system. So stipulation 1 out of 3, you'll see that here is the description. I need to add names to the PHI table. This is a stipulation that must be addressed. And so when you scroll down here, you'll see a new little category called links to components. So what this means is that an analyst has directly linked the component that you need to edit. And the way that you access that is to go over here to revise existing. So a description of the component is right down here. So you'll see that the initial application needs to be changed. The section that needs to be changed is identifiers. And this is the question that I'm going to need to edit. So I need to add names to the PHI table. This is the question that I'll be navigated to once I click on this. So I'm going to hit revise existing. This will ask me to confirm that I'm adding a revision. Now I'm notified that the application I'm editing is version 1.1. So again, version 1.0 was not edited, version 1.1 now is. And here is the modification has been requested again. So I need to add names to the PHI table. Cool, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna indicate they're accessed and recorded. Then I'm gonna hit save. So now, okay, I hit save. How do I get back to that area that I was just at? Back button, you guessed it. So I'm going to bring us back to our stipulation form. And now you'll see that it looks a little bit different. It says complete action, incomplete action. I'm going to manually select complete action to indicate to the analyst that I have done what they've asked. Down here, I'm going to say, yes, I accept the stipulation. And in this text box, I'm going to provide a brief explanation on how I address the stipulation. So I'll just say done, because the analyst will be able to see that I have edited the application appropriately. Okay, so stipulation 2 out of 3, this looks like one that is directly linked to the application. Once I click over here, it says application is, action is not complete. So I'm gonna go ahead and go over here to my initial application. Oh, you know what, this is not the right version. Just talking about how you need to pay attention to that, and I didn't do it myself. Okay, so I'm gonna go over here to version 1.1 because again, that's how this one was changed to 1.1. So now this is the one that I'm editing. Okay, this is the modification that I need to make. I need to check coded and additional confidential. So I'm gonna hit coded and I'm gonna hit save. And then I'm gonna bring myself back to the stipulation form. Okay, now that this has been completed, I'm going to hit complete action to make this green. I'm going to accept the stipulation and hit done. Now, my final stipulation, this is stipulation 3 out of 3. The PI has indicated a flyer will be used to recruit participants. Please submit the flyer for review. Okay, great. So down here, I have a link to a component. The component is to add the study document. So here is where you can directly add the document that has been requested of you. So I'm going to go ahead and click Add Document. I'm going to upload a new document that is not already listed under here. So as I mentioned, I had my survey and my consent form already uploaded. My flyer is being requested, so I'm going to hit Upload a new document and title it Flyer and upload my flyer here. Okay, the action has been automatically completed for me. I'm going to hit yes. I accept the stipulation, and I'm going to say flyer has been uploaded. I'm going to hit save. Make sure that everything has been completed. Okay, great. I'm going to hit save and continue with the next section. Okay, so now I get a very similar form has been completed screen as the initial application. I'm going to hit sign off and submit. Here, same thing. You're able to create a PDF packet containing all the new documents and previous versions, or I'm sorry, current versions of your initial application. You'll also notice up here that there are a couple rounds that you're able to cycle through. So 2 means that this is the second time that I, as the PI, have seen this application and made corrections. If I were to click on 1, I would see all the previous version of my initial review submission packet that did not contain the documents that have been requested of me. So my flyer, as you know, we just uploaded my flyer. So keep this in mind. If it comes back a third time, then there will be 3 current round. So if you need to go back for any reason and see previous documents, you can do that here as well. So I'm going to hit approve and hit save sign off. And now my study is back in this area. It's in the pre-review status and has been sent back to the analyst who has requested these modifications of me. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is we're going to create a submission form from one of our studies, and we're going to do this exempt study. I'm going to click on it over here, and I want to create a new amendment. So I'm going to hit start a new submission form, and I'll walk us through this amendment. Okay, so here it'll give me general project information, the number, the name of the PI. If I wanted to put my study contact in here, I could. Down here, we ask for study status. So this is a new question. This is helpful for us to see, how you've progressed in your study, if you haven't enrolled yet, you're active for enrollment, enrolling, or whether enrollment's been complete. So it's helpful for us, and it's also helpful for you. So we're going to say my study is active and none have been enrolled. Okay, so right here, I want to change the incentive and I want to change the consent form. And down here, I'm able to I'm asked if the changes affect procedures, costs, or risks of participants. Because I'm changing the incentive, that affects the participants directly, and I'll need to revise my informed consent forms. So I will be prompted to do that right here when I click yes to this question. And I forgot to mention this, but there are quite a few new options that you're able to check in this area. Previously in our amendment form, we had, I think it was 4 or 5 different options that you could select. Now we have a lot of different changes that you're able to pick from. And if you don't see exactly what you're looking for there, we will always ask you to describe the proposed changes in more detail. And note that we will always ask you to include the rationale for your changes. And if that is not done, then we will kick it back to you and ask you to do that. Okay, so as you'll recall, I indicated over here that I was going to change the incentive and change my consent form. So when I go back to my revised materials, I'm going to need to edit the application, right? Because I need to explain what incentive I'm changing. So I'm going to click here and attach my application. You'll see this is version 1.1, so it has been edited before. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click under here, create a revised application. I'm going to add a revision. Okay, so I'm going to bring us down to payment/incentives. Instead of none, I'm going to say that I'm going to give everyone $50. Okay, so that was the only section I needed to edit. So I'm going to bring myself back to my amendment form. And because I said I was changing my consent form, I'm going to go ahead and add a new consent form here. Hit save. Okay, now I'm brought back to the sign-off screen. I'm going to hit that to submit. Looks good. I'm going to hit approve and save sign-off. Okay, and now my amendment form is in my in-progress area, waiting to be assigned to an analyst or reviewed by the IRB. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. Can everybody see my PowerPoint? No, you can't see my PowerPoint. Okay. Let me try that again. Okay. So like I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we encourage you to log into iRIS. My team and I have been uploading all of your previously approved and exempt studies in InfoEd into iRIS for you. So any study that you've submitted to InfoEd but that has not received a final determination will not be moved from InfoEd to iRIS, but everything that has been given an exemption or an approval has been. So once you log in for the first time using your SDSU single sign-on credentials, please make sure that all your study documents are up to date and most recent. And speaking of dates, so August 15th is going to be the deadline to submit all active InfoEd applications and related forms by midnight to ensure a timely review and a smooth transition of these records from InfoEd to iRIS by an analyst. So please keep that in mind. If you need to submit an amendment or you need to submit a new study, please do that as soon as possible because August 15th is the deadline for that. On September 1st, InfoEd will be deactivated at midnight and no further investigator access will be granted. And then October 1, iRIS will go live as a new and improved protocol management system for all SDSU IRB protocols. So during the month of September, it will be, we're calling it a conversion period. So that's when we are going to be moving all the studies over from InfoEd to iRIS for you. So during this time, you'll be able to access iRIS to draft new submissions, but they will not be processed until after October 1st, 2024. We understand that perhaps studies, you may have a reportable event, which will need to be submitted to the IRB. So please reach out to an analyst if that is the case, if you need to submit something and obviously you're not able to access InfoEd. Please reach out to us if you have a reportable event, need to make a change like that, and we will work with you on a case-by-case basis. Okay, so now that we've reached the end of the presentation, I'd like to open it up for any questions that anybody may have, and also thank you for your attention. I know that was a lot of information, but we really appreciate you being here, and we're all very excited for this change. I'm gonna open up the chat. Oh, we got a couple questions in the chat. iRIS, the iRIS acronym means Integrated Research Information Systems. And the city docs, I see the city docs, we have a question about city docs being associated with iRIS if you add a new email address. Yes, so as long as you, I believe, and Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, but city docs will be associated with iRIS because when you register, your SDSU email is what you will log in as. And so your city docs, given that you signed up with SDSU, will be merged. But if you find that when you add a new email address to your iRIS account to direct communications to, if your city documents are no longer associated with your profile, put in your city ID and that should bring them over. And then Amanda, you asked, can there be delegates in the case that a PI needs support? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Would you mind explaining that a little more?
Yeah, so I'm kind of wondering in the case, let's say that a PI cannot complete the whole initial review packet, can they assign a delegate for instance, a project manager to then take over and complete the initial review packet?
Yes, they can. So when you assign key study personnel access to the protocol, you are able to assign a study coordinator that access to read and write, and they can complete the application on your behalf.
Just one note about that, though, is when someone else besides the PI completes an application, that PI gets that application before it goes to the IRB. They must always sign off. So the project coordinator or study contact or anybody like that cannot officially sign off on the application. The PI is the only person that's allowed to do that.
May I ask, can you all hear me okay? This is Enrico. And first of all, thank you, Natalie, for your presentation. It's great to see someone from sociology doing this.
Yeah, you too, Dr. Marcet.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, is there a difference between retracting and withdrawing in terms of the information that'll be left on the system? Like, for example, if I enter a lot of material and then I decide, first of all, I don't know the difference between retract and withdraw, but if I withdraw, will all the information go away and would need to be re-entered? And what is the difference just between retract and withdrawal?
So retracting a submission means that you pull it back before an analyst or the IRB sees it to make edits. Yeah. So that's different from withdrawing. So when you withdraw a study, that means that we, the IRB, can no longer see it or consider it for review. I believe you'll still be able to access your study documents in the application, but you can't, once you've withdrawn it, you can't put it back out there. So if you need to, you can like copy those documents from the withdrawn submission, but you can't put it back out to the board.
Okay, and then what does PHI stand for?
Personal health information or identifiers.
I'm sorry, I'm the geek, former
That's okay.
science major in undergrad. That acronyms drive me nuts. If you're dealing with them all the time and we don't, it's just good to know what they are. So thank you. And the other thing is, if I submit something, which I'm hoping and planning really to do soon through iRIS, it's not the case that I'm gonna have to wait till October 1st for that to be reviewed, is it?
Sorry, say that one more time. You cut out.
Did I understand? I hope I misunderstood you. Did you say that if you submit something soon in iRIS, I was advised, I think by Justin, and thanks again, Justin, for your responses over the past couple of weeks. If I submit something, will it be reviewed in a fairly timely manner, or will we have to wait till this October 1st date that you mentioned toward the end of your presentation?
So right now we are reviewing new submissions in InfoEd. So that August 15th deadline is the last day that you can submit new submissions to be reviewed in InfoEd.
Right.
So between September 1st and October 1st, you're going to be able to go in and draft new submissions in iRIS, but we won't be accepting new submissions during that time. Okay,
so I'm still confused because I have a submission that I'm hoping to put in the next week or so. I was instructed to do it through iRIS. And my question is, am I going to have to wait till October 1st for that to be reviewed? If I submit that next week, let's say, through iRIS, am I going to have to wait more than a month for that to be reviewed? Is my question.
So you said that you've already drafted it through iRIS?
No, I haven't. I'm on this training because I've never used iRIS before, and I'm also advised to wait since I'm going to be doing it soon, not use InfoEd. And so I don't have to do it, use the new system.
So Enrico, how about we help you with that in that we actually put it through InfoEd, even though you're not familiar with that system. Is it going to be exempt or expedited? Probably.
Expedited.
Yeah.
Expedited, yeah.
So, yeah, it'll be a short document in InfoEd, and then we can review that during the month of August, probably, and get you a response or an approval. And then we'll transfer that information to iRIS during September.
I mean, obviously admission here, I haven't submitted through our IRB system in a long time. I've gone through the CDC directly. I've done it through other universities, which quite frankly have been easier in general. So I appreciate that you're changing the system actually, but I've never actually used InfoEd. That's how long it's been.
No worries. What we're going to do is Zoom with you and then walk you through the application, just like Natalie did for iRIS.
Okay, I'm sorry to take up I'm sorry to take up so much time, everybody else. I'd ask you 3 or 4 different questions.
Follow-up question to that is, if I were to submit a new IRB now, you want me to continue with InfoEd? Like, is there a point at which it's switching over and I should begin iRIS? So is it September 1st? Like, I'm not sure exactly when I'm submitting and I'm beginning because it's a lot going on right now, but what's the time frame?
So I'm going to pull up the dates again so I can show everybody. So until August 15th, we will be accepting all new InfoEd applications. So Francis, I believe you are going to want to submit an InfoEd as soon as possible. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, it is, but I'm not sure I'm ready to begin an application by August 15th. So what you're telling me, it sounds like if I'm not ready to begin by August 15th, start September 1st through iRIS or through October. So I'm going to have to wait. I think this is what Enrico is saying. I'm going to have to wait until October 1st to begin a new application in iRIS, period.
You can access iRIS and you can begin drafting a new application, but it will not be reviewed until after October 1st.
But I can't draft it in iRIS now, is what you're saying.
Correct. If you want it to be reviewed by August 15th, then you need to draft it in InfoEd. But if you're okay waiting until after October 1st, you can go through iRIS.
Okay, thank you.
Natalie, is that because just the startup, transition time with reviewers becoming familiar with the system as well and just being able to access it? Is that?
Yeah, essentially. We understand that it's not the most ideal situation, but our office needs time to be able to migrate all the rest of the studies in InfoEd. Our board needs to get used to the system as well. So we're hoping to do this as seamlessly as possible, and we are going to need that conversion time.
Yeah, okay.
So another follow-up, sorry. So if I do by chance start the application in InfoEd, I have that time up until September 1st when it starts to get transitioned. All that information will be transitioned over to iRIS, and I can continue. I'm going to continue working on it. That's what Natalie's saying in iRIS, I think is what I'm hearing, but it won't be reviewed until after October 1st.
Who's the IRB chair right now, by the way, or?
Well, Enrico, do you mind if I have my question answered and then we'll talk about that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Let me try to clarify again. So Francis, if you don't think you're going to get your study through finished completely, I mean, every document submitted before midnight, August 15,
Okay.
my suggestion is go through iRIS. You have full access to iRIS right now. It's just that this study isn't going to be reviewed until October 1 in iRIS. Does that make sense?
It does. Regardless of what's happening, I can either speed up or slow down, but at some point I can continue working on it in iRIS. If I can speed up and complete it by August 15th and hit submit, I'll do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
And just so you know, just because we're going to log off here pretty soon, you're welcome to call us or email us with more questions. This is not the last time we're going to communicate for sure. So, Enrico, the chair of the IRB is Dr. Ramona Perez from Department of Anthropology.
Wow. That's who was 15 years ago when I last went through her.
That's right. She's still here.
No, I know she's on the grant with my partner, actually. And Francis, I'm sorry I interrupted. I didn't hear.
Okay, no worries. It's a bit confusing. We just kind of have to. I've been holding off on submitting something, and I also have a student who needs to submit his master's thesis, publication thing, and I just, we're just going to have to wait. And he wants to graduate in spring, so there's that.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions before we log off?
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thank you all for being here again.
Sorry, one last question. You mentioned that it will link the city certificates for our personnel to automatically to their account. If we have students who have both a student email address and their SDSU Research Foundation personnel, so they have two separate SDSU email addresses, does it matter which one of those they use for accessing InfoEd?
You mean iRIS?
Or sorry, yes, iRIS.
That's okay. They both start with I. It's crazy. So that's an interesting question. I'm not entirely sure because when I was a student here, I registered for City with my student email address. And so when I logged into iRIS, I had to link my City ID to my profile so that it would transfer over my City training documents. So unless one of my colleagues knows, I'm not sure, but in that case, if they don't see them directly associated with their account, I would advise you to tell them to link their city training ID to their profile, and it will probably populate.
The other way to
And
do
they-
it, there is, I'm sorry, Jennifer, there's another back door. So when Natalie showed you the My Profile and showed you can add additional email address, if they
They can put both.
use, yeah. So for city will track several things. One is the city ID number that you're given when you log into the system. Everyone, no matter what email you use, you're always going to have one single city ID probably. And then it will also track any email address that you put on that list of your My Profile. So if you used a different email address, Yahoo for something for city, you put that email address into add email, it'll track the city training under that email address as well as SDSU or your city ID. So there's lots of different ways it'll validate the training. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, all right. Well, thank you all again for coming. We really appreciate the time you took to be here. I will be sending, oh, Amanda, you have one last question. It's mean that each research staff must have an iRIS account. Yes, research staff need iRIS accounts to be able to be added to the study.
So like all of the students that we have on our protocol will have to have an account.
Yes.
But they already like have an account for them. Like, because
Yeah.
if they already have an SDSU email and stuff, they already have an account in the system. So that's why we ask you like to look them up through LDAP, and then they'll probably be there. But if they're a true unaffiliate, then that's when they truly would have to request a brand new account and jump through those hoops.
So just for clarification, you know, for almost 30 years, we've been working with community-based organizations to collect statistically representative data and stories from undocumented immigrants in different parts of the country. Now we're going to be moving to a more, well, another vulnerable population, I would call it. I've never had to have all of our interviewers, for example, have to be connected with the IRB in some way. It's the protocol that's being reviewed, right? But you're saying that like any of the students who would be interviewers on the project would have to be in iRIS also? Or did I misunderstand that?
Do you mean people who interview participants or participants?
No, I'm talking about, I know hopefully participants wouldn't have to be, I'm talking about
Okay.
you know, our student interviewers themselves. And for example, I've hired people from USC, UCLA, UCSD, a lot of other different universities. And not only them, but also our SDSU students they've had to have their city, you know, human subjects, sorry, I'm lost for a word right now, approval or accreditation, but they've never had to be attached to the IRB application. And so if I had 24 interviewers, let's say, who were training, you know, on how to go out into the field, is it the case that they have to be connected with the IRB? I'm sorry, with the IRS, or with the iRIS?
Yeah, they would be listed on the protocol because they're actually interacting with participants. So they should be listed on the protocol.
So every interviewer, okay. Okay.
Okay, so if there are no more questions, thank you all again for coming, and I will be sending a follow-up email with those dates that we just described and I had up on the screen attached for your own reference. And we encourage you to spread the word about these webinars to your colleagues and other people working here who may be of interest. And again, thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it.
Will the recording be listed somewhere? Okay.
Yes, the recording will be listed. Ryan, I'll send it to you once it's downloaded, and then I will link you to the recording in the email that I sent to you all.
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel going, so we'll have all 9 of them there.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a great day.